Zara K1 says, as the saying goes, the abused focuses on the abuse, the abuser focuses on the accuser. And this is such an important point to grasp. So let's use this to educate about abuse tactics for those who might not be familiar. For the victim, their immediate concern is just getting the abuse to stop, to feel safe. So their focus will be on calling out the abusive behavior, highlighting it, describing it, proving that it occurred. A perpetrator knows that this is a losing strategy for them. If you focus on the events, their behaviors, it will expose them and their abuse. So they instead have to shift focus on tearing down the victim, to absolutely destroy their reputation, to insist you shouldn't listen to anything they say, and that they are a horrible, irredeemable person. And anytime the conversation switches back to focusing on their behavior, they'll immediately dodge and go, well, what about when the victim? Because they are well aware that any discussion around accountability for their behavior will go badly for them. Now, because the victim wants to discuss behavior, seek correction and resolution, they will address the perpetrator directly, which, take a moment to recognize, takes incredible strength, bravery, and courage. A perpetrator, however, will not address the victim directly. Instead, they'll focus on shopping their smear campaign, talking to literally everyone else but the victim. And they do this so that they can win people over to their side. Well-meaning rescuers hear the horrible things about the victim and agree with the perpetrator. The victim is evil. The perpetrator then gets to triangulate, to shore up a crowd of allies and point to all the people who agree with them and say, see, I told you the victim is a bad person. And then the perpetrator gets to switch roles. Now they can play themselves off as the victim. And now that the roles are reversed, those rescuers become agents on behalf of the perpetrator, believing the perpetrator to be the real victim to be the real perpetrator, and go after and attack the victim. The perpetrator then gets to sit back and relax and watch all of this unfold, as people who have taken the perpetrator's side become flying monkeys, attacking, harassing, and smearing the victim on behalf of the perpetrator. So the perpetrator can then wash their hands of it all and look completely innocent and clean. I'm not doing anything to the victim, they are. The perpetrator will then lean into this to focus on their victimization and really play up the emotional aspect, their vulnerability and sensitivity. I just don't understand why this is happening. It's all so unfair. If only someone would do something about this. And it's all to increase the moral outrage felt by their flying monkeys, to make them all the more motivated, vicious, and savage in attacking the victim. Now at this point, I just want you to put yourself in the shoes of the victim, just for a moment. You've been manipulated and abused by the perpetrator. You're hurt and afraid. You finally find the courage to speak up, knowing that victims rarely get justice. Immediately, there's a backlash against you, bringing up every mistake and bad decision you have ever made. You're told that what happened to you didn't actually happen. You aren't believed. You're a liar. You're a despicable piece of trash. Not only that, but actually, you're the abusive one. You're the one abusing your perpetrator. Having been abused once, the victim is now subject to constant abuse from people they have never met, who love to insult, degrade, and harass the victim at every opportunity. Already vulnerable, they get put under immense emotional and psychological pressure. And if the victim can't handle it, if they understandably finally get overwhelmed and show any outburst of anger, aggression, mock, or insult their perpetrator, well then that's reactive abuse. And the perpetrator and all their flying monkeys point to it and say, see, I told you, look at how they're behaving. This is proof that they are the abuser. Or the victim can stay quiet and endure more abuse. The flying monkeys see their silence as proof the perpetrator must be innocent, justifying their abuse of the victim all the more. And this is the trap that is laid for victims. And every single other victim who is on their own journey to escaping abuse, who might finally feel ready to speak up and name the abuse that they themselves have suffered, sees all of this go down, sees how other victims are treated, and thinks, hell no, I'm not going through that, and quietly pulls back from ever talking about their experience. When what should be happening is that if a victim files, it should go to court and be decided there. But knowing that the evidentiary bar is so high that many perpetrators will still walk out of court with a not guilty verdict. And that should be it. That's how we protect victims, by helping them to speak up, being open to them having their say and telling their story, and focusing on the abusive behavior based on the evidence. An abuser who spends all of their time avoiding talking about the abuse and only talking about their accuser doesn't want to empower victims. They want to silence them.